I think that the economy, given that we put some sort of handle on the pandemic, because that's the big contingency, will continue to grow. I think that as they start to raise interest rates, they're raising, or as they raise them, they're raising them in very small increments, 0.25%. So it shouldn't have a dramatic effect on slowing the economy down. But if you get a combination where you continue to have this number of cases on a weekly basis globally, and you have interest rates going up, that could slow the economy down even more. The Fed got it wrong. They underestimated the pace at which the inflationary pressures would grow and how persistent they would be. Now that they're acknowledging the fact that we have persistent inflation and taking out the word transitory, they are, in my mind, chasing inflation. In other words, they're reacting to the inflationary level rather than being proactive about it. And that, to me, is not what the Federal Reserve is supposed to do. They're supposed to anticipate and then execute a plan, have side plans or plan B and C in case it does this or this. But it really took them off guard, I feel. They just didn't see this coming. And so it's forced them to make a total of 6 hikes in a period of a year and a half. And that is rather quick. Now, they're subtle hikes. They're 0.25%. But nonetheless, I think they're reacting a little bit late. They should have had done something prior to this and acknowledged that inflation was getting out of hand. They also left the door open for tapering timelines to slow down or speed up, and they left the door open for the number of rates. In other words, that's what they're penciling in. Mm-hmm. But if inflation continues to mount as they go through these steps, they might even accelerate the pace or the amount per rate hike. Mm-hmm. So they've left that door open, and it really illustrates how the Federal Reserve is acting or reacting rather than being proactive. Well, I think what we're going to see is, without raising interest rates until the middle of the year, if inflation continues to spike higher, you will see gold react to the bullish side. If inflation stays the same or moves down as they go through the tapering process, then you're going to see it still remain range-bound, even move lower.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
This has been more than any year, and I've been doing this for 35 years, a headline-driven market. Markets move on a fundamental basis, they always have. But it is the headlines that tend to jerk the market around so violently, and we have gotten a lot of very interesting headlines this year. If we get that same kind of action next year, we could have that effect. Overall, I'm neutral on gold. I think that it could trade under pressure, with the caveat that if inflation continues to tick up and tick up higher, eventually you'll get some dollar weakness and you'll get a push in gold. But it's going to depend on the inflation rate. The reason we've had such a strong dollar is the fact that yields were so low on U.S. debt instruments began to tick up. And of course, that is bullish for the dollar. But we did have many cases in the last couple of months where you had the dollar and gold moving in tandem. There were more days, of course, in which you had the normal negative correlation. Gold moves up, the dollar moves down, or more likely gold goes down because the dollar is going up. We saw that a lot this week, but we could see a change in that. Again, it's all about what the inflationary pressures do over the upcoming months. That's what's going to be critical in determining where the precious yellow metal goes. But I think a lot of the inflationary pressures are derived from items that are going to stay high. Oil did come down a bit, but now it's moving back up. The cost of food is still tremendously high. Now, you might say, well, as far as food goes, they have to transport it. So if gas is high, hard to find drivers, you have those carrying costs, and that's what's taking food prices up. Food prices are mostly driven by demand, and China is the biggest recipient of our grains, soybean, corn, and wheat. and they're buying in huge quantities right now, and that is what's driving the market up. Plus, you've had some weather issues in the Midwest in terms of corn. But I think back in the 80s, I think it hit as high as 14% in 1980, maybe 15, just shy of 15%. But the interesting thing is it took them 3 to 4 years to bring it down to around 4%. And what that tells me is even if the Fed gets it right and they slowed down the rate in which inflation was growing to have it start to come down, this is going to be a multi-year, not a multi-month process.
I have bad news for you. If you're not rich by now, you're screwed. And if you're in debt, you're even double screwed. How so, you might wonder? Well, the sad truth is that you're working your whole life to make someone else rich. The mega corporations, the banks, the politicians, everyone is getting richer. They get your money. And what is even worse, they get your time, they get your life. You are not even in a rat race, you're in a financial prison. But what could a solution for you look like? Honestly, I don't know, but I know what a solution for me would look like. It's very simple. I use whatever money I have and I multiply it with 1,000. This could make my life much easier and probably yours as well. If you have $1,000 available and multiply this with 1,000, I believe that this could solve some financial issue for the one or the other. Of course, if you're ugly, you would have to multiply it with much more than 1,000. My name is Markus Dahn, and this is what I decided to do. I decided to 1000x my money. This is not a joke. I know what you may be thinking. What is this guy talking about? How should this work? This is not possible. Well, I made a detailed video where I laid out my plan. And some clever folks might even want to look at this plan and copy it and do exactly what I do. This is just a little hint on the side. You have two options. You leave, you forget what you have seen. You do whatever you're doing and you hope that somehow you get some other results. Good luck with that. Or you click the link below the video. You enter your email address because I'm not showing this to everybody. You at least watch my video on how I plan to 1000x my money. The choice is yours. Make the right choice. Join me. See what a different future you could have. See at least how I intend, how I plan to do the 1000x. So click on the link below, enter your email address, and I see you on the other side. Your Markus Dahn.